The Philosophy of Chess. Chapter 1. The Pawn. The Principle of Progress. Every master was once a beginner. Every queen was once a pawn. Before you learn how to attack, before you learn how to defend, before you memorize a single opening, you must first understand why chess has survived for more than 15 centuries. It wasn't created because people wanted another game. It survived because it became one of the greatest teachers of decision-making ever invented. Kings studied chess. Generals studied chess. Philosophers admired it. Scientists respected it. Not because moving wooden pieces across 64 squares was entertaining, but because every move carried a consequence. Chess never lies. It rewards discipline. It exposes impatience. It punishes arrogance. And above all, it remembers. Every move changes the position forever. The board never forgets what you did 5 moves ago. Life works the same way. Most people believe success is built on a few extraordinary moments. Chess teaches the opposite. Extraordinary victories are usually built upon hundreds of ordinary decisions made correctly. One careful move, then another, until suddenly everyone calls the result brilliant. But brilliance rarely begins with brilliance. It begins with discipline. That is why we start with the smallest piece on the board. Not the queen, not the rook, not even the king. We begin with the pawn, because the smallest piece teaches the largest lesson. At first glance, the pawn appears ordinary. It stands in front of the entire army like a soldier no one notices. It has the lowest material value. Most chess players assign it a value of 1 point. The queen is worth approximately 9, the rook 5, the bishop and knight 3. Compared to those pieces, the pawn looks insignificant. Many beginners believe its purpose is simply to be sacrificed. That misunderstanding costs them games. Experienced players see something completely different. They don't see 8 small pieces. They see the foundation of the entire position. Every pawn controls space. Every pawn shapes the battlefield. Every pawn influences where every other piece can safely travel. The strongest queen in the world becomes powerless if her own pawn structure collapses. The most active rook cannot invade without open files created by pawns. Even the king depends upon the wall built by his pawns for protection. The smallest pieces quietly support the strongest ones. That should sound familiar. In life, people often overlook small habits because they don't appear important. 1 workout, 1 page read, $1 saved, 1 honest conversation, 1 disciplined decision. None of them seem life-changing by themselves. But neither does 1 pawn move. Until 20 moves later, when the entire position depends on the square that pawn now controls. Small decisions become large consequences. That is the first lesson of the pawn. Never underestimate small progress, because the future is almost always built by things that looked insignificant in the present. Now let's understand how the pawn actually moves. Unlike every other major piece on the board, the pawn moves only forward, never backward, never sideways, never diagonally, unless it is capturing. From its starting square, a pawn may move either 1 square forward or 2 squares forward, provided both squares are empty. That privilege exists only once. After its first move, the pawn advances 1 square at a time. Notice something extraordinary. The pawn never gets to change its mind. A knight can retreat. A bishop can return. A rook can reverse direction. The queen can travel across the board. The pawn cannot. Every move is permanent. Once it leaves a square, it never protects that square again. Chess is teaching you something profound before you've even finished learning the rules. Some decisions cannot be undone. Choose carefully, because every step forward creates a future you'll eventually have to defend.